Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a really fascinating set of sources here, all about, well, one of the most famous structures in the world, the Statue of Liberty.
That's right. Historical accounts, National Park Service info, UNESCO details, even some surprising facts that might make you see Lady Liberty a bit differently.
Yeah, I saw those. So the mission today, as we get into this material, is really to go beyond just the image we all know.
Exactly. To understand the story behind the symbol, we're going to pull out the most interesting bits, give you that well-informed shortcut, maybe spark a few aha moments.
Without getting bogged down. Sounds good. So let's start right at the beginning. Where did the whole idea for this massive statue even come from?
Well, it really kicked off around 1865. The initial concept came from a Frenchman, Edouard de la Boulaye.
Okay, Laboulaye, he was a political thinker.
Yeah, a political intellectual and a really strong anti-slavery activist. His idea was for France to build a statue, a symbol of liberty for the United States.
As a gift, right, to mark something specific.
Precisely. It was meant to honor the 100th anniversary of American independence.
The centennial.
Yeah.
And also that friendship between France and America.
Right. And Laboulaye was also, deeply moved by the abolition of slavery that had just happened in the U.S.
Ah, so that anti-slavery angle was baked in from the start. That adds a layer.
It absolutely does. It connects to the core idea of liberty. And the sculptor who really ran with this idea was Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi.
Bartholdi. Okay, so he heard Laboulaye's idea and jumped on board.
Enthusiastically. He started designing the statue around 1870. Its original name, by the way, was Liberty Enlightening the World.
Liberty Enlightening the World.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a title. So Bartholdi's designing. What about the location? Did they know where it would go?
Well, Bartholdi himself came over to the U.S. in 1871 to scout locations.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
And he picked Bedloes Island, what we now call Liberty Island, right there in New York Harbor.
Why there specifically?
He saw it as the perfect spot, the gateway to America, he called it, visible to every single ship coming into the harbor.
Makes sense. A dramatic entrance. And his design was packed with meaning, was it?
Oh, absolutely. Every piece tells a story. The crown, for example.
With the spikes.
Yeah, 7 spikes. They're meant to be like rays of light, sun rays, extending out to the world.
Okay, and she's holding something.
A tablet, yep. Inscribed with JUIV MDCCLXX6.
July 4th, 1776. In Roman numerals, Declaration of Independence.
Exactly. And if you look down at her feet,
Chains.
broken shackles and chains, a clear symbol of the end of slavery tying back to Laboulay's motivation.
That's powerful. And the figure herself.
She embodies Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty.
And the torch. Was it always meant to be lit?
Interestingly, no. The original plan was for a solid copper torch, gilded so it would shine in the sunlight.
Huh. Not lit. Okay, so a really symbolic design. Now, building this thing, that must have been a colossal effort. Funding it, constructing it.
It really was, and it was structured as a joint project between the two countries.
How so?
The deal was France would handle creating the actual statue and putting it together.
Okay, the French build the statue.
And the American people would fund and build the pedestal it stands on.
Got it. So, fundraising time. How did France raise the money?
They used a mix of things: public fees, various entertainment events, even a lottery.
A lottery, okay.
Yeah.
And in the U.S., did they do the same?
Similar methods, but maybe a bit more varied. Benefit theatrical shows, art exhibitions, auctions.
And didn't I read something about prize fights?
You did. Even prize fights were used to raise funds.
Wow. Anything to get the pedestal paid for.
Yeah,
And wasn't there a famous poem involved?
absolutely. Emma Lazarus wrote The New Colossus in 1883.
Give me you're tired, you're poor.
That's the one. It was written specifically for a fundraising auction for the pedestal. Those lines became incredibly linked to the statue later on.
Yeah, defining its meaning for many. But the U.S. fundraising, it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? Kind of stalled.
It did, yeah. Things were moving pretty slowly on the pedestal funding front.
Until
Until Joseph Pulitzer stepped in 1885.
newspaper publisher, New York World.
Exactly. He launched this massive campaign in his paper urging readers to donate no matter how small the amount.
And he published their names.
He did. Every single donor. It was a huge success. Something like 120,000 people chipped in.
Oh, yeah.
And they raised over $100,000, which is enough to finish the job.
Incredible, the power of the press and the people. Okay, so funding secured. What about the engineering? Who actually designed the insides?
Well, Bartholdi, the sculptor, brought in Gustave Eiffel
Eiffel.
of the tower.
The very same. Eiffel designed the internal iron pylon like a spine and the skeletal framework.
Why was that so important?
It was genius, really. It allowed the outer copper skin to sort of float or move independently, necessary to handle the wind in the harbor.
Flexibility. Makes sense. Was anyone else involved in the structure?
Yes. Eugene Manuel Viollet-le-Duc was involved early on in the structural side, too.
Okay. And the pedestal, that was the American part. Who designed that?
An American architect, Richard Morris Hunt. He was chosen in 1884.
Did he charge for it? Actually, no. He donated his fee, which was quite a gesture.
Nice. And where did they build it?
Construction started in the U.S. in 1884, right inside the walls of Fort Wood.
Fort Wood.
Yeah, it was an old star-shaped fort built way back in 1807, an 11-pointed star fort.
So the base of this symbol of liberty is literally built inside an old military fort.
Interesting. Okay. Pedestal construction starts stateside. What's happening in France with the statue itself?
French artisans had actually started constructing the statue back in 1876.
So quite a while before.
Right. And they finished the arm holding the torch that same year, 1876.
And didn't they display it somewhere?
They did. They shipped it over and showed it at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia. Gave Americans a little preview.
A sneak peek of the torch arm. Cool. What about the head?
The head and shoulders were done by 1878 and displayed at the Paris Universal Exposition.
So pieces were being shown off. When was the whole thing finally put together in Paris?
It was fully completed and assembled there between 1881 and July 1884. How did they actually make the copper skin? It's so huge.
They used a technique called repoussé. It was refined by Viollet-le-Duc.
Poussé. What's that?
It involves hammering thin sheets of copper from behind, shaping them over wooden molds. It's incredibly labor-intensive, but allows for lightweight, detailed forms.
Hammering copper sheets into Lady Liberty. Incredible craftsmanship. Okay, so July 1884, it's finished, standing in Paris. How do you get that across the Atlantic?
Well, first, on July 4th, 1884, a symbolic date, it was formally presented to the U.S. minister in Paris, Levi P. Morton.
A handover ceremony.
Right. Then came the huge job of taking it apart again.
Taking it apart after just assembling it?
Had to. It was disassembled into 350 individual pieces.
350 pieces. Wow.
And carefully packed into 214 crates. Imagine the labeling system they must have needed.
No kidding. Okay, packed up. Then what?
The French Navy provided a ship, the Isère.
The Isère.
It carried all those crates across the ocean, arriving in New York on June 17th, 1885.
Must have been a huge welcome party.
Oh, it was. A massive reception. People were incredibly excited.
But wait, the pedestal wasn't finished yet, right?
Correct. The crates had to wait. Reassembly on Bedloes Island couldn't start until the pedestal was finally done in April 1886.
So about 10 months later, what went up first?
Eiffel's iron framework. That had to be reconstructed first. The skeleton.
A core structure. And putting all 350 pieces back together. That sounds like it would take forever.
You'd think so, but apparently it went surprisingly fast.
Really? Oh.
They had this fearless crew, and interestingly, many of them were new immigrants themselves.
Immigrants building the Statue of Liberty, that's quite something.
Isn't it? And they did it without scaffolding, using steam-powered cranes to hoist everything into place.
No scaffolding, just cranes.
Wow.
Okay, so reassembly done. Finally, the big day arrives. When was it officially unveiled?
October 28th, 1886. That was the official dedication day for the Statue of Liberty enlightening the world.
Who was there?
President Grover Cleveland himself officiated. Thousands of people watched. It was actually New York's very first ticker tape parade.
The first ticker tape parade for the Statue of Liberty.
Yep. And Cleveland apparently called Bartholdi the greatest man in America today. High praise.
Indeed. Was it a nice day for it?
Not really, no. The reports say it was wet and foggy.
Typical harbor weather sometimes.
But it didn't stop the crowds. Estimates say maybe 1 million New Yorkers turned out anyway.
1 million people. That shows how much it meant. Could people go inside right away?
Yes, they could. And for quite a while, from 1886 until 1916, you could actually go up into the torch.
In the torch? How?
There was a ladder inside the arm. You could climb up to a small viewing platform.
Why did that stop in 1916?
There was a huge explosion nearby the Black Tom explosion during World War I.
Right, sabotage.
Exactly. After that, partly due to damage and partly just safety concerns about wear and tear from tourists, they closed access to the torch permanently.
Shame, but understandable. And the torch itself, it served another purpose initially.
It did.
Yeah.
It was actually run by the U.S. Lighthouse Board until 1901.
As a lighthouse.
Yeah, it was the first lighthouse to use electricity. But it wasn't very effective.
Why?
It